Hello everyone, welcome back to Fetch Quest, and today we're going to be talking about Five Nights at Freddy's.
Guys, stop trying to be Markiplier. You can never be like him.
You're right, Brewer. He'll never be the GOAT.
Guy, you are such a disappointment.
You'll never be as cool as Freddy Fazbear, Guy.
Just trying to start an episode. Why am I the one
Shut
who's
up,
always
Guy.
got crap
We hate
on?
you.
Shut up!
Shut up.
Oh my
Shut
god.
Yes, cry more. That makes us happy.
Yeah, no, for
Oh
real.
my god. Alright, but today's topic is going to be Five Nights at Freddy's, where we have a guest star today, Julian A.K.A Skylow.
Yo, what is good, everyone? I'm very excited for this episode. I feel honored to be picked for this episode.
We are honored to have you.
Oh, why thank
I
you.
mean, Frank,
I'm so happy to have a fellow FNAFer.
As am I.
frankly,
As
like,
in we.
I don't think there's anyone else, in our friend group that I would have chosen, if I'm going to be honest.
Okay, now you're just discrediting me. I thought I received this honorable position,
Guy.
and now you're basically
I can't
telling
believe
me
you did
no,
that.
you got it as a participation award. But
Got
See,
it
Guy,
as
this is
default.
why we
Oh my
crap on
God.
you, Guy.
Jesus Christ.
You have to ruin the mood.
Shush. Julian's birthday is literally in 2 days.
no, it isn't.
Happy early birthday.
It's actually a different
It's
friend's
it's actually
birthday.
on a right.
In terms of recording,
It's also
in terms of recording this, we're recording this 2
our
days before the
honorary
FNAF
birthday.
movie. That's Julian's real birthday.
Oh, okay. I see
That's
what
my
you mean.
birthday.
I thought you were talking about our different friend who actually has a birthday on the FNAF movie day. And
And he
That's
doesn't
very
want to
funny.
see the
I'm
movie.
so
he
jealous
doesn't
of
want to
him.
see the movie much, but we're dragging him to watch the movie on his own birthday.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting it out of the way, we're getting a little sidetracked. Before we talk about the FNAF subject matter, there are 3 questions that I'm going to be asking Julian before we get started. The first question that we have is, Julian, what is your favorite game, and why?
Alright, so for this, I have 3 games that I'd like to quickly go over. It's hard to choose between them because it's like choosing your favorite child. I'll get the maybe the less obvious one out of the way. One of them is The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. I
Based.
grew up on that
Fair.
game. It was probably one of the first 3D games that I ever completed on my own, and I just love it for so many different reasons. I think it's the most expressive Zelda game out there. I think the music is phenomenal, and just the overall art style, even though it's controversial, it was controversial at the time, it's just beautiful. It's just such a very beautiful game. Second one would be Persona 5 Royal.
Yes,
that's
sir!
hella good game.
You just made Guy very happy.
I know I did, and we've had
And me.
a lot of conversations about the game. It's just a very well done game, beautiful gameplay. Just really love that. I think the story is very good. The music is amazing, and just I've never seen a game have so much style put into it. You can go through the menus and stuff, and you just see such sleek transitions and stuff. It's just thinking about it, it's just beautiful. It is amazing. And lastly, a somewhat recent game is Xenoblade 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
I think that game honestly has one of the best stories I've played, and it was a story that hit right at the time that I needed it, if that makes sense.
No, I feel you. It's the same for me, Julian. Julian,
yeah.
you're talking to a man who was cosplayed Noah from that game.
Yo, that is so based. You see, I would
Yes, you-
cosplay Noah to find a Mio.
Same.
That's what he did! That's what he did! He
Yo,
got
that's
his
big.
nose
I'm
on the
Mio.
Mio.
That is so sick. I'm actually so jealous of you.
I even have a prop Lucky 7 sword.
Oh my god, you gotta show me that later. But
Yeah,
I will,
3D print.
along with the flute.
But yeah, no. Those 3 games
Guys.
very dear to me. I just I just really love them for all their aspects and stuff. Yeah, they have their own flaws and stuff, but it's just those are games that I can always go back to and just know that I'm just gonna have a smile on my face whenever I'm playing those games. And they're just very enjoyable, very good stories, very good music, atmosphere. everything you'd want in a game, in my opinion.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Alright, nice.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad we got to hear that. We've had conversations about all three of those games before, so I'm really happy that you were able to like tell everyone here like why you love them so much, which I think is awesome, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Play Wind Waker, by the way.
second, yes, I know. I have it on Dolphin. Don't worry. But
Hey,
second
don't
question.
tell Nintendo that.
Nintendo is not watching this. You did not hear that.
They're busy banning tournaments that have 201 people in them.
So true.
But second question, Julian, why do you play video games?
Why do I play video games? Okay, I like gotcha mechanics in video games because I like gambling. So that's why I
Oh
play
God,
video games.
no!
That's one way to put it.
But on the real, I think it's gonna be a little bit of a generic answer, but video games are my escape from reality. They're a way that I can, kind of just focus on something else, and like immerse myself in a different world. And that's what video games is about, I think.
No, that's fair.
Maybe-
That's fair.
Well, it is a very similar answer that we've had in the past before. It is one that I think all of us in here can relate to. Because, like, have a hard day at work, school's just being school.
Yeah.
You just want a little escape just to play a game that can really touch you.
Yeah, no, for sure. And
Yeah, of
sometimes
course.
it can be a quick game of like Mario Kart or Smash Brothers, and it's like,
Yeah, it just hits.
It's just nice. Well, until you fight a Rob online or
That is
Steve,
true.
then your night's ruined.
but I'll
Oh
just
my
win
God.
anyway.
Unless it's Guy, because Guy's Rob is stinky.
So true.
I hate y'all.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys
Oh my
understand.
God. All right, but third and final question: if there was a video game that you were able to replay again for the very first time, what would it be and why?
Yeah, I'd have to say The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, because like that's a game I heavily understand that like I have a lot of like nostalgia for and stuff. But like I also would like to replay it without that fact. Just because I think it's such a like unique game as well. I feel like I'd like it just about as much as I do now. Maybe a little less, but also like the way I describe Wind Waker is it's like sort of the open world of Zelda before Zelda became fully open world in terms of like Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild. And
I can see what you mean.
yeah, honestly, like I prefer that's like the Wind Waker approach to the open world because like I like finding new dungeon items and then having in the back of your mind, oh, this is an area I can't access till later. You get that item, you realize, hey, this is somewhere I can come back, and a lot of the times the reward you get from doing that is it pays off in the game. So it's just a really fun game.
I think with any Zelda game too, it's just like the sense of discovery and magic is why we've had so many people say they would replay like X Zelda game
Oh, for sure.
because everyone has that like one Zelda that's special to them, and just going through it again, exploring that world with like a fresh new perspective would be a dream for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you're so right on that. And the thing is that like Zelda especially not only creates that like sense of adventure, but like you were saying, Julian, like, oh, there's a part of this area that I can't go to, but you get an item for it and you're like, oh wait, I can go to it later. It's like kind of the Metroidvania effect of like
yes.
you get the satisfaction of like remembering where that area was, and because of that, oh, I just got a free heart piece, let's fucking go. And a lot of people are not going to realize this. They're not going to know it when I say it first, but potential topic for a later episode. Zelda and Metroidvanias kind of have a similar design philosophy, and that's what I think like brings a lot of satisfaction.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, I'm glad. All right, I'm glad we got those three questions out of the way.
Did I pass?
Now we're getting into it.
Maybe.
Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh my god.
Woo, yeah, baby.
That's what I've been waiting
Yeah, we get to talk about killing children.
There's a lot to talk
Alright.
about in this series. But yeah, no.
Yeah, I was about to say.
The furry community is gonna go wild with this one.
Fuck. Where do we begin on this one? This is.
I'm going wild right now.
Where do we? Okay,
Yeah,
where do we even
where
start
do
on
we
this?
start?
God.
There's a lot to start with FNAF. So the way
Yeah, do you want to start with timeline, games,
Let's go
we've
into lore
got
later. How about we just start off with the first Five Nights at Freddy's and
Let's
explain
start-
where it went from there?
Yeah, I think that's a
Exactly.
good idea because
Let's
like
start with
each
the books.
FNAF kind of built upon the previous game, in my opinion. And I think the way I describe FNAF is it went through several different eras as it like progressed. So we obviously have the first game, which was it was what started it all. And a few things I'd like to note about the first game is like the designs for the animatronics and just the general idea of the game is actually just revolutionary. Like whether you like FNAF or not, like you cannot deny its impact it's had on just the video game industry and just like even a little further beyond that. Like it's just like part of like culture, like pop culture
I
nowadays.
mean, like, Let's Play on YouTube's a huge part of the reason that blew up is I think because like Five Nights at Freddy's
Yes.
and like Markiplier.
No, it's crazy.
Well, I mean, that's.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, you go first.
Okay, well,
Okay. This is a very confusing turn of events.
you got it. Go.
Connor, go.
Thank you. Okay.
Go Connor.
I was gonna say that's basically that's a big reason why FNAF blew up in the first place. It wasn't like like the way the game was marketed was through stuff like Markiplier and YouTube playthroughs. Like that's basically because I remember the creator gave a bunch of like creators like the game early in order to like promote it. Basically, it was pretty ingenious like marketing.
For sure. And one thing I'd like to add to that is like with like the marketing and stuff is like this is where horror games become even more popular than what they already were. So I'd say like YouTube has had a huge history with like the horror game genre in particular, and like that's kind of where like horror games blow up from. As I've seen in the past, like I think the first game to blow like the horror game genre was like something like Amnesia, where like a lot of
yeah, that's a big one.
100%.
Yeah, that'd be accurate.
yeah, a lot of big creators jumped on that game and it became very popular. And I feel like there's like a down period for a very long time up until Five Nights at Freddy's came out, and that's where the genre of horror games just became revitalized.
Yeah,
I
and
think
I think
especially with the first. Oh, sorry, guy.
I'll make it quick. But oh, you first. You go.
Okay, we were just interrupting each other this episode, unfortunately.
We love each
But
other
in
that
the same
much.
way we interrupt each other, Freddy interrupts you in the game is where my point's gonna lead. Because I think the way the jump scares were like implemented in the first game, like I know jump scares are controversial for like horror games, but at least in the first game, the way they were built up to like was perfect for streaming and YouTube because you got a funny reaction out of like the YouTubers going batshit insane over Freddy just getting your ass. But then also to build up to it as well, the gameplay, just like trying to avoid every little thing and micromanage. It was just the perfect recipe at the time.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue to like gameplay and stuff. I think the gameplay is also like incredibly underrated for Five Nights at Freddy's in terms of like the first one in particular. Because for the first game, like a lot of games around this time were heavily focused on like graphics and like free roam and stuff, but this is a game where you could just not move. You had only you only had 5 different buttons. 2 of them were likes, 2 of them were doors, and 1 of them was a camera. So you essentially had just 5 different buttons and a clear objective of surviving from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah, I think with most horror games, we talked about this in like in last week's horror episode, part 2. But
Which you should definitely check, by the
I
way.
think- Yes, but I think what we mentioned is like with a lot of horror games, usually the objective is to just like keep going forward to like find whatever thing you have to or to escape. But similar to like Iron Lung, a game we talked about, you're just in a static location the whole time. You can't run, you can't move, you just got to deal with whatever's coming at you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like that strangeness adds a lot of like the tension for the game because like it's something that you're unfamiliar with. Like, well, you were unfamiliar with back in the day. It just worked very well because, Five Nights at Freddy's is made by one person, Scott Cawthon. and like with just by himself he was able to like make, you know, a game like this with like, you know, these jump scares and stuff and these patterns and stuff, but it's very simplistic, but it seems like a lot more is sort of what I'm trying to get at in terms of gameplay.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's crazy too, because like it's an indie game by one person, and it's blown up so much. Like the only other indie game, like I guess series at this point that I would say has had this much success would be like Undertale / Deltarune. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah,
oh god,
I mean, I'd say Minecraft, since that started out as an indie
yeah,
game and now
for
it's like
sure.
basically AAA.
But
yeah, it's AAA at this point.
yeah, I think now that you mention it, FNAF is definitely one of like the pillars of like the indie game like genre becoming like
Oh, for sure.
more looked at whenever it was created, which is really cool in my opinion because I think there are some like really cool indie games out there that, you know, people should check out, and you know, FNAF was a cool one to show off that indie games can be pretty cool sometimes.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, I
for
think
sure.
just
Yeah.
success
And why
stories
were they
like
so
that can
cool?
definitely help people get more motivation to like work on that project that they didn't have as much confidence in.
For sure.
It's crazy because like
Liam,
oh,
what were you saying?
I was gonna segue. I was gonna segue and say why were they so cool? And it was not because of the gameplay. I know the gameplay is cool and all, but it was because of what we all want in the FNAF games.
oh my
Lore.
god,
The
The lore.
lore.
But that's just a
Listen,
theory, a game
Game
theory.
listen,
Kill me.
the first
Okay,
one did
so
it so well. The first game did the lore so well, and I would like to talk about
oh
that
my god.
at some
really,
point.
really quickly, just to quickly just bounce off of what Brewer was talking about, but game theory. I there was, I remember I was re-binging all of the game theory FNAF episodes to prepare for this episode.
Oh my
So
god.
even even though he is not the most accurate sometimes, I have prepared myself. And I remember the tweet where he said, where he was like voting on whether or not to vote for like go doing a theory on Slenderman or Five Nights at Freddy's. And it's like looking at the one, like I think it's like 2001 A Space Odyssey, where he's looking at his past self in the thing. That's what it reminded me of, because it's just,
Oh, Interstellar.
oh, Interstellar, yeah, the Interstellar thing where he's like trying to tell himself no.
Yeah. But segueing to lore, before we get into the lore, I think a big reason to why FNAF culture has blown up so much is because, like Julian said earlier, um, the game on its surface is pretty simplistic, but it's also pretty complex the more layers you go down. And of course, the biggest example of this is definitely the fucking lore. Oh my lord.
Yeah,
Dude, the lengths people had to go to figure out shit for FNAF is fucking mind-boggling.
I think this was like also like a start of like games having like unknown like, you know, questions and stuff that needed answers, and you know, uh, regardless of what you think about like the lore of FNAF, like the fact is like a question that you don't know the answer to will always have you like thinking about it, you know. Um, but going with the lore of FNAF 1, it's very simplistic, luckily. If I remember correctly, the lore for FNAF 1 is basically you have the phone calls every night, you get a phone call, and the one phone call that well, there's quite a few phone calls that become alarming, but the main ones are the night 2 phone calls, the night 4 phone call, and the night 5 phone call. So starting with the night 2 phone call, that's where you learn about the infamous Bite of 87.
Is that the Bite of
Flight of
87?
87.
Yes. So yeah, that's where you learn about that. So you have like tidbits, like, you know, kind of teasers like through those phone calls and stuff. Um, Night 4, is where the phone guy gets attacked by one of the animatronics and ends up dying.
That's
Phone
funny.
guy fucking dies.
And then the funny one is the Night 5 phone call, which is just a whole bunch of gibberish. With
Yeah.
like some jump scare sound noises and stuff, which
Where he goes, the joy of
yes,
creation, and everyone freaked the fuck out.
which is like that one was a very interesting one because obviously like there's a whole bunch of gibberish and stuff, but if you rewind it, you get an excerpt from a I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like some like article thing from like called The Joy of Creation, which talks about like how things are created. So
Interesting.
Interesting.
yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point though. That like
It's
those
I'm pretty sure it's a poem. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty
nerd
sure it's a
emoji.
poem.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's a really good point to bring up. Is that like those phone calls really do not last long, but those are like the only information we were able to really take at the time, especially for FNAF 1 for like a lot of lore. So like,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the guy behind the phone? He's someone important, isn't he?
So
Not really.
yes and no,
Depends.
sort of. So a lot of FNAF is very speculative. So all we know about this phone guy is he ends up dying night 4. And the messages are pre-recorded, so he could be someone very important. But to summarize the rest of the like lore for the game, so this is where the whole idea of children getting stuffed into suits starts. So
Yeah.
our favorite. So
I
if
hate
you
children.
yes.
I hate children.
Oh, okay. I hate children too.
Don't you have two little brothers?
Shut up.
But yeah, so if you look at the cams on the left side, I believe it's the camera right next to where Bonnie normally has his head in. The camera above that one. Um if you look at that camera, you'll see signs on the walls that talk about a missing children's incident where 5 missing children were randomly missing one day after being in the pizzeria. So these uh, like news outlets give you more information, but they end up switching like randomly from time to time. Like eventually, some of these news outlets, like whenever you look back at the camera, turn into like just like a face of like a child crying and stuff like that. So
Really?
yeah,
Yeah,
I actually did not know
it's
that.
unironically, it's like really creepy. Like the first time, because I'll look it up real quick, but it's actually like really creepy.
yeah,
Yeah, looking into the files and like just all the hidden background stuff, because like they purposely at this point as well always hide stuff in the background because they know people are gonna be scavenging around in files. But like, there's a lot of creepy shit just like hidden in there.
yeah. I think this is like one of the coolest things, and like other games, I feel like have adopted this as well. Is they added a lot of layers of randomness into the game. Like even though they weren't unnecessary, they didn't really affect gameplay much. In order to creep the player out more. So like maybe sometimes whenever you looked at a certain camera, it might look a little different if you pay close attention than it did the last time you did. And I think the most obvious one for this one is Golden Freddy in the game.
I was just about to say Golden Freddy.
Yeah, Golden Freddy has
Golden.
low odds to spawn, and whenever he spawns in, there's not much like what's going on and stuff. So it gives a huge layer of creepiness because you don't even expect him to be there since you only know there's 4 animatronics, but he's the secret 5th one.
Oh, there's a lot of randomness in the game that is really cool. Like, for example, Freddy, if you run out of power, the amount of time it takes for Freddy to jump scare you is completely
Yeah.
random.
I think that's why that jump scare is so memorable, because you're always like hoping like, oh, maybe he doesn't get me until 6 a.m. and I'll be safe, or it builds up suspense because you don't know when he's actually going to attack. I'd say the best way I could compare it is like a boss like using a delayed attack to throw you off your game instead of just using the same fast attack.
For sure. And I think just like adding that like layer of randomness and stuff makes it like refreshing to like it gives a lot of replay value for games like these.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
Yeah. As much as
Especially when you try to do 50-20 modes.
so true.
I love the first game, even though I have never played it, but I really like it. We could honestly do an entire episode probably just talking about the first game, but we should move on to FNAF DOS.
You're so right.
Yeah.
Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
So 2 was really cool because like gameplay wise it drastically changed. Like what you were used to was, you know, 2 doors, you close the doors, you know, 4 animatronics, and that's it. Now this game said we're gonna give you 10 animatronics, there's gonna be no doors, and you have a mask now. So it definitely changed like the gameplay a ton. And also what's crazy about this game is it was released like literally, if I remember correctly, like less than a year from the first one.
I think 4
They all
months.
It was like a,
I think
I think
4
it was like a
months.
few months. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 4 months. And then FNAF 3 came out 4 months after 2.
Yeah.
Considering
when
the
we say
timeline
so what?
between like FNAF 1, 2, and 3, it is kind of funny they all released that quickly after each other.
For sure.
Oh yeah, and then
So
FNAF 4 came out like a year after 3, and then that game also got updates.
Yeah.
so FNAF 2 released on November 11th, 2014, and the first game released on August 8th, 2014. So like little over 3 months
That's
after
crazy.
the first game.
So
That's crazy too, considering like like a single person made that.
yeah, no, and what's crazy is like 2 feels really polished and like is up there for me as like one of my favorite FNAF games.
Oh, it's my favorite FNAF game. It's my favorite FNAF game, like easy.
Uh,
The
Yep.
gameplay in 2 is the most refined out of all of them because I think we can
Yeah.
all agree the least refined is Security Breach. But the
Well,
gameplay in 2
Security
We,
breaches for different reasons.
yeah.
We-
As you're saying, Julian.
it's perfect.
Yeah, no, so for 2, there's a lot of things. I think like this was the point where like a story was starting to be like concrete. This is like FNAF 1 was the game that got hype. It added like a few teasers and stuff to leave the you know, the players in suspense, and like for those who did go through the files and stuff and mess with the game, they saw that, you know, there's a little bit of lore here, but now we got like an actual like concrete story from FNAF 2. And these
yeah.
also similar to what we were talking about randomness. These like little tidbits of story you get would occur every time you die. You'd have a random chance of playing a mini game. And through these mini games, we learned a lot about like just the general story of FNAF. We learned that
Yeah.
So
You first.
yeah, so it just quickly summarize, since, you know, obviously I don't want to keep everyone here for 6 hours. There's we have our first antagonist of the entire series, which is the purple guy. And what we can see is in several mini games, he's around there, and he seems to have a device that gets to shut off an animatronic. The second thing is we have instances of children dying and then being placed in suits as being revived. And then we get our first lore drop of like who the puppet is, who's a very important character to the series, and how they're the one who was the one to restore life to the each of the kids that died.
Well, I'd say the tampering thing you just mentioned, that's also a very, very important lore bit
sure.
because that involves like proving who you play as in the first 2 FNAF games. Because you always think about it as like, why the hell would you stay there for 5 nights after like the first or second one?
Mm-hmm.
Once you like dig into the facts more and like look into the details of the employee, you can figure out who the person is and like why they want to stay there.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
I think a lot of
yeah.
theories were like
And
created about that around the time.
Yeah.
I remember all the phone guy equals purple guy theories. That was the time to be alive.
Those were
The,
Jeez.
moi.
the good old days.
Oh
Everyone
god.
thinking the thing in his hand was a phone when it was probably just like a crank or his hand or something. Ah, beautiful time.
But yeah, I think also a really big thing that propelled like especially the lore at this point. Not only were the mini games, but the fact of the matter is that the game up to that point was leading you. This is just me personally, but this detail really got me into like FNAF lore when I was little. But the fact of the matter is that Five Nights at Freddy's 2 takes place before 1.
Yes, that's a big deal. So this game was actually a prequel sequel.
That's
Okay,
crazy.
real quick, Julian, I have to ask, what's your favorite death minigame?
My favorite death minigame, probably just because of the impact it give gifts, give life.
That one
Very
is
based.
I think that's objectively the best one.
Yeah,
Let's
it's the
be
best one.
real.
Just because of like how much like lore you get in there, it's really cool, in my opinion. For to summarize it real
I
quick.
really like that one. I've always been a fan of Foxy Go Go Go,
Oh, that one's a
but
good
that
one.
one is yeah, but the Give Gifts Give Life is also really good.
Yeah, to summarize
Well, I
that
mean, the
one real
mini.
quick, since like it's an important one. In case you need a refresher, you the audience, I'm talking to you. Um, that one, you play as the puppet, and you end up giving gifts to what appears to be dead children. And after you give them all gifts, you're tasked with giving them life, which you go through each of the children, then putting on the suits of each of the animatronics, going from Foxy, Chica, Bonnie, Freddy, and then right before that game ends, you get a jump scare by Golden Freddy, who a frame before the jump scare is a child that spawns right before the jump scare, which is pretty cool.
I like the way you phrase that. A child that spawns.
Yeah,
Guys, if you all think about it, we are all spawns.
so true.
I don't I don't like that. That's
I feel like there's a reference to be made somewhere in there.
But yeah, that's when I know FNAF 2 is when like I mean FNAF 1 was popular enough, but I think like because Scott Cawthon knew it was so popular, he was riding on those coattails and released FNAF 2 like as ASAP. And then that's when everything blew up from there cuz FNAF 2 like to me at least like started like FNAF becoming pop culture.
Oh, for sure.
I think that's when I saw the most let's plays of when, or at least what I remember as a kid.
So FNAF had like this huge impact at the time. Like I think specifically with FNAF 2, where not only were horror games like being like a popular genre, there were the theory community for like video games and basically anything became a lot more popular around this time, as well. So I think like the
yeah.
cultural impact FNAF has had at this point was kind of crazy. And at this point, there is a concrete story with lore just enough to like put puzzle pieces together while not having enough puzzle pieces like to still be confused about certain aspects of the game, which in my opinion was really cool still, because it always
Yeah.
got that theory itch of like you can solve stuff, but also there's some uncertainties that is up to your own interpretation as well.
It really is crazy how like a huge chunk of FNAF lore has been and kind of still is just speculation.
Mhm.
You don't get a lot of solid answers for things.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Like
like
even
just
if
a month
you
ago. Oh, sorry, Connor.
I was just gonna say, if even if you like look up YouTube videos and that are titled like the full FNAF timeline, like there are like so many conflicting points and differences within those videos. It's so hard to determine like which one is right, you know?
For sure.
I will say one funny thing is that like recently, I think like a month or two ago, like there was an actual explanation given to like FNAF 4, and like basically everything the theorist had was like just wrong.
Yup.
That's really funny.
I remember. Okay, so I'm gonna just jump ahead real quick. I remember the game theory FNAF 4 live stream where like Scott started like uh, uh updating like the website during the stream to give him clues, and the like I'm just gonna say I think the like big theory was supposed to be right, but Scott realized that sucked, and so that's not going to be it.
Yeah.
But we'll cover what that theory is when we get to FNAF
Yeah,
4.
I think you
I've heard
started
of that.
a good segue though into two things. So one thing is like how Scott built hype for his games was something that wasn't like ever done before, but it was something so effective. So he wouldn't like
Yeah,
mass market the game or anything. He had a website called scottgames.com. And in this website, he would post very tiny teasers where you'd get normally would get an image, and within that image you could sometimes brighten the image, lower the darkness, and you get a secret message within the image. Or sometimes you'd look at the source file of the image itself, and you could get dialogue from there too, like, or a secret message as well, which brought so much hype for the game because then it allowed people who were theorizing like who are theorists to speculate about what the game is going to be about, what's going to happen in the game, who are going to be the returning characters in the game. So it made it very fun, and I think that's something that Scott like did really well to bring hype for his games.
Yeah, even if the story can be iffy at times and there's a lot of conflicting points, the one thing I think that can't be denied is the man knows how to do a decent build up to his
Oh, for
games.
sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that second
That's a
thing. Oh yeah, you go.
no, you first. I was gonna segue to 3.
Okay. And that's and the second thing here is also as we were talking about before, is like how the theory community had like sort of, I wouldn't say directly, but they kind of impacted the games as they kept progressing with sort of what, fans would want and what Scott would want as well, which we can probably dive down later into more of the games, but it started slowly happening, I think, with like FNAF 3.
Oh, for sure. I think FNAF 3 is the point of like no return in terms of like semi conclusive lore, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
because I feel like Scott, if he had a vision when making the first few games, it was supposed to end at 3, but then like he wanted to go on
That's
like, from
yeah.
more, because he wanted to go on from there and make more money, which understandable. But yeah, I think FNAF 3 is gonna be that one where like, because I remember like a lot of people were like, this might be the last game in the series, and I think it's such a good ending to the series and yada yada. But let's talk about why that is.
Yeah, it definitely felt that
Yeah.
way. So the main animatronic, there's technically only one real animatronic for that game, and that is Springtrap, who is confirmed to be the purple guy in the FNAF 2 minigames.
Holy
Um,
shit!
yeah, a huge bombshell. I might have spoiled you all on the movie now with that one.
Oh my god,
That might
William.
actually be important for the movie, like for real.
Well, no, that's the thing. Well, here's the thing. It they were doing promotional stuff for the movie. Apparently, he's not even named what he's named in the series. Apparently, his name is not like what the
Like in
purple
the
guy's name.
casting.
Like here, I'll look it up.
As you're doing
You
that, let's
guys
talk
keep
about
I
talking
don't
FNAF
even
while
think
I
it
3.
was
look
at
it
this
up.
point.
Yeah. We got Springtrap, who is the main animatronic of the game. Pretty much the antagonist of the entire series, because basically from the little knowledge we can piece together from FNAF 2, is this is the person who started the first murder, and from there has been going on a murder spree against children, and the puppet was the one to sort of combat that by giving life back to the children in forms of stuffing them into animatronic suits, where they would keep fighting back until their souls could be put at peace. Which is how FNAF 3, the good ending of FNAF 3, ends up finishing off. Is all these children, they get their birthday party. The specifically the Golden Freddy gets the birthday party that they wanted, that they never got because they were killed right before their birthday party. So they finally get their birthday party, and they're able to be put at ease, and their souls are able to rest. And also with that, we have the actual like mainline game like also feeling conclusive as well, because the souls of each of the children fight the purple guy. Purple guy goes into the spring trap suit. There's a spring lock failure. Purple guy ends up dying, air quotes dying.
Yeah,
No,
big
he's
air
never dying.
quotes right there.
And the place ends up burning down, and that is the end of FNAF 3. Or is it?
Oh, and this is
Okay,
also
so
where, hey, this is
Yeah,
also
what's up,
where
Liam?
they
What's up?
have the most. I think this is the biggest lore drops. Is this has a lot of stuff with like, oh no, that's 4. Never mind.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the wrong game.
yeah.
There's too many games. That's the problem, Liam.
I was busy looking up the FNAF movie thing, but did you mention the phone tiles at all?
No, I didn't. If you
Oh
wanna
man,
talk about that.
I was just gonna say this kind of as FNAF 3 is really good, but this is where it enters the territory of getting like a little goofy at points. I think it hits like full goofiness after FNAF 4, where it stops becoming like supposed to be like super scary and more so leans into comedy. But in order
FNAF
to
4 is
access,
freakish, dude. What are you talking about?
I said after FNAF
Oh, oh,
4,
oh, oh, oh. My bad.
but yeah, in the game, in order to access a big part of the lore, there's these tiles in front of your camera, and you have to click on the tiles as if they were phone numbers, and then I'm pretty sure you have to enter 1987,
No,
and then it'll
I
give.
know what you have to enter. I'm such a nerd for remembering this. You have to enter the hexadecimal code of purple.
A
That's what it.
hexadecimal
No,
code.
yeah, that's what it
Oh my
was.
god, there's no
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yes, no, that is an actual part of the lore, and it is really dumb. As much as FNAF 3 is really good, the phone tiles hexadecimal code is insanely convoluted and insanely ridiculous.
That's
Well, I'll
really
say
funny.
this for FNAF 3, at least it's something you can actually do and figure out, because like FNAF 4, I think is when the lore started getting stupid, especially because like only up until like a month or two ago, because of a book or something,
Yeah.
where do people actually have a definitive answer to what FNAF 4 was with the nightmares and stuff?
Yes.
Because again, every theorist got it wrong, but there is still something that hasn't been revealed. There was a box that Scott put up on like a website or something. He's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna reveal something. It's gonna be big, a big lore drop." Yeah, that box has still not been opened to this day.
Oh
I'm
yeah, the
I'm pretty sure that
box.
box.
Yeah, that's in FNAF
So
4.
yeah, the box is complicated because some people argue that I think it's just dead. I think it got quote unquote revealed in FNAF. It's not 5, 6. Yeah, 6. I think. Pizzeria Simulator. There's this big theory about the box and Pizzeria Simulator, but essentially, box is dead. Like that thing is never coming back.
Yeah. Sort of, I guess, segues to FNAF 4. Like, I think the first 3 FNAFs were sort of what Guy was saying, like, sort of the vision for how the series would go. After people were, like, sort of, like, I wouldn't say dissatisfied with FNAF 3, but they were still, like, hungry for, like, at least one more game. That's when
Exactly.
Yeah.
Scott dropped FNAF 4. And I remember, like, this was around the time where I was, like, super into the teasers and stuff. So, like, I remember very clearly how, like, the marketing for the game was all about, like, anticipation of who caused the bite of 87. And each teaser had all the nightmare animatronics, like, separately. Like, for 1 week it was, like, Freddy, and it had the caption, "Was it me?" Then the next week was Bonnie, and so on.
That's cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack with that game, and even though it felt like the game that would give us more answers than questions, it was the complete opposite. It gave us way more questions
Yeah.
than it did answers. So starting off, you play as a child with a striped shirt, and so he's pretty important to the story because the way the story ends up going, this is the most story centric FNAF game, I'd argue.
It is.
It is.
Yeah,
That's
despite the
that's what I
fact
was trying to
nobody.
talk about earlier, and then I forgot that I was talking about the wrong game.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Despite
Oopsie doopsie.
the incredibly convoluted way it tells that story, it is probably one of the most heavily focused story games. Besides, like I guess Security Breach and maybe
I'd argue
Sister
Pizzeria
Location.
Simulator,
Yeah, Pizzeria Simulator is up there.
yeah,
especially because it has
Security
one of the most
Breach.
memorable moments in the series.
Yeah, Security Breach is just like all story, but yeah, definitely one of the more story focused ones.
yeah. But to
One has
summarize
more.
the FNAF 4 story, it's basically a kid who's having a birthday party. He's afraid of these animatronics, specifically the one with the golden Freddy suit. Um, and what ends up transpiring is we end up learning that he has some sort of affiliation, like his parents have some sort of affiliation to the restaurant. And there's a talking golden Freddy plushie that ends up following him around that gives him advice. But after you beat all 5 nights, each night occurs in a bedroom where you're up against the nightmare animatronics. So there's a lot of questions surrounding like whether like these night modes are actually real or not. No concrete answer on that yet, really.
Well, there is one answer. You know the thing I mentioned
with
that
the
was
book?
revealed like
Yeah.
a month ago.
The
Yeah.
illusionary
Yeah,
discs.
so
Well, we'll get to the
There's a
books
lot
in
to
a
g-
second because there's a thing I want to say
Yeah.
about the books that like make this story very convoluted.
But that's just a
there is a
fucking
lot
theory.
with it, but
books.
the one really important detail is the person that was experiencing all the stuff from FNAF 4. The simplest way to put it, they were getting gassed the entire time.
Yup. But
What were you
basically,
saying, Liam?
Well,
What?
it
I was-
depends on if you treat the. Oh, sorry,
No,
Liam.
I was just saying that that was basically, oh, this is a little bit of this also ties into the fifth game, so this is a good segue. But there are things called illusionary discs, and those things cause illusions. Who would have guessed it? And that's what the little child in 4 was experiencing, illusions of big scary monsters.
yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I got gassed.
But
yeah. Before we, I was just gonna say, I was wanting to explain the accursed dream theory before we segue to that.
oh yeah, go for it.
So before we learned about the illusionary disc, as Liam put it, the huge popular theory at the time was that it was a dream. And it's not for the obvious reasons like, oh, they're called the nightmare animatronics, which equals dream. No, the big theory was that the entire series had been a dream. And there's a lot of clues, but the three main big ones was that there were a bunch of plushies in the kids' room who you play as in FNAF 4. And so those plushies equaled the FNAF 1 animatronics since they looked like them. There's this girl in a playground area who has a bunch of toy versions of the animatronics, and the Chica one is missing her beak, and so a lot of people think that that inspired um, the Toy Chica design in FNAF 2, like the dream wise, and then the whenever you're going into the actual restaurant, you can see the purple guy putting a like animatronic head on someone, and a lot of people were thinking like, oh, that's like at least in terms of dream theory, that was just him. Uh, that was just him helping him into the suit, but the kid thought it was him stuffing a kid in the suit. Nowadays, it kind of goes back and forth between if it actually was that or if that was the purple guy stuffing someone. It goes back and forth all the time, but that's essentially what Dream Theory was. The entire thing was just a big dream.
Yeah.
Bro's been studying his FNAF lore.
No, it like that theory in particular is like really crazy because like there's a big live stream that went on the Game Theory channel, and that's where Scott had a little back and forth like through his webpage, basically
It
talking
was
in the
really
stream.
cool.
Just like adding stuff, being like, "Oh, have you guys ever observed how like Toy Chica's missing her beak?"
Yeah,
On
why was
yeah,
Toy Chica missing her beak?
but
I think it was like that, and then what is seen in shadows is misunderstood in the mind of a child. It was something like
I
that.
think to wrap up FNAF 4 real quick, I think like the big thing about it was like the whole like thing about how it sort of gave us more questions than answers. We went into this game very much expecting it to be like, what the Bite of 87 was about and how that ties into the game. But sort of what we got was more confusion on that as well. Since
Oh wait, we didn't
Yeah,
even
since
we.
the one of the dates on a TV commercial you watch, you see that it's actually 1983 instead of 1987, which is what we assumed the game would be about. So that kind of for a while gave confusion between the people on whether this was the Bite of 83 or if we actually saw the Bite of 87. You know, still no concrete answer on
Yeah.
that yet either. But
Jesus Christ.
we also to finish up, this is where the infamous box comes in towards the end of the game. If you complete all the all the Nikes and the extra Nikes, like
Yeah, 8
yeah,
nights.
you complete all 8 Nikes, you get a teaser of a little box that's closed with a caption of "Sometimes some things are best left forgotten." I'm pretty sure something along those lines. And
Jesus.
yeah, for a while, that was a big part of what could be in the box. Could this be what solves FNAF? And I think this is where like the first era of FNAF kind of like comes to a close, where we had like a story that I think Scott was trying to convey, but because the theories like surrounding the story were kind of getting pretty spot on to what I believe. Again, this is all like what I believe and very speculative, but like what I believe to be like what Scott envisioned the game. He sort of ends up changing like his games and his own like interpretations of what previous games were meant to be, which is what makes the whole FNAF timeline and just the entirety of the game series just very convoluted.
Yeah, FNAF's gotta
Yeah.
have like the most retconned like story and timeline of all time.
Well, here's the thing. This could be changed, but I'm pretty sure he confirmed in a post one time that he's only ever retconned. I think this was around the time of Pizzeria Simulator. He said he's only like retconned like 3 things in the entire series.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like
The problem with that though is like we're believing
What does
the
he consider a
creator
retcon?
of what like he
yeah,
says,
exactly.
so you kind of have
Yeah.
to take it with a grain
Yeah,
of salt.
I've always taken it with a bit of a grain of salt because he never even said what he retconned,
Yeah.
which was kind of like a big bit of a red flag to me. And two, um, it a lot of times it feels like as if he was kind of making it up on the go. Like once it hit FNAF 3, I think he kind of realized where he wanted to go a bit. But there are some twists and turns in the series that are so insanely convoluted and dumb not dumb, but just like silly, that it's very confusing.
Yeah.
I think with FNAF's timeline and just the story, a big reason why it's confusing because like I don't think he ever anticipated it to blow up the way it did. Like
Oh, not at
maybe
all.
he imagined it got some like
No,
moderate
100%.
success, but becoming the giant that it is now, like you can't just imagine that happening.
I believe FNAF.
FNAF 1 was.
Yeah, I think FNAF 4 should have been the finale to the entirety of the game. I think this is where like Scott
Yeah.
felt pressured to like keep making more games because that's what fans wanted, and at some point you kind of have to let go. But
in
do.
his
Yeah.
defense,
but also if you don't
Uh,
let go, you continue making more money. So you know it's your opportunity cost.
in
Are
his
you
Cash
gonna
cow.
defense,
keep using this
Oh.
as a cash cow, or are you gonna stop the story where it probably should conclude?
Oh, we
Well,
haven't
in his
even
defense,
gotten into
Liam,
like
Yeah,
you
let
first.
me go, please. And in his defense, the next few games he made were absolute peak. Sister Location and Pizza Simulator, or Pizzeria Simulator, were actual
Yeah.
peak games, and you cannot convince me otherwise.
No, I
We're
agree.
forgetting
Yeah,
about
I-
FNAF 5.
Yeah, that's Sister Location.
No, it's FNAF World.
We don't talk about that
That
one.
doesn't
Die.
exist.
Yeah, we don't talk
But
about FNAF World.
speaking of like FNAF World and stuff, like the side stuff that went on with FNAF, it just makes like it makes theorizing very frustrating. Which is why I typically like to only like stick to like talking about like the first 4 games and stuff, because after the 4th game, that's when the books are introduced into the game, and the books become very wild. Not only are they not the greatest piece of media ever, but they bring a lot to the entire series because they take place sometimes in the universe of the video games and sometimes not. They're kind of its own separate entity.
just sometimes.
Just sometimes, and then
Yeah.
sometimes some knowledge in those books transfer over into the video games. Which
I'm
Yeah.
wanting to know if the Freddy plushie I'm holding in my hands right now has knowledge on the games that I need to find.
so yeah, no,
I mean, if you go to the Fazbear Fright books, he might have info on that.
yeah. But that just makes the game, like the lore, like even way more convoluted. Like it was very easy to follow along up until FNAF 4, but once like these books were introduced and we were told like, hey, sometimes they apply to the video game, sometimes they don't. It just becomes very tough. I think we've been talking about lore a lot, so I'd like to just like quickly go over the last few games remaining into the FNAF timeline, and have
Well-
some talks about them.
I was gonna say we could do something really epic and awesome, and do a part 2. That way, we could talk about even more FNAF.
I would love that because I would be
Oh,
able to
God.
talk about FNAF because
I want to talk about real life.
Maybe next time? Question mark.
Ooh,
Question mark.
I mean,
FNAF
you the
will
audience right now,
return,
if you
question mark.
like what you're hearing, you can give us a good old slapping that like button, subscribe as well, and maybe there'll be a part 2 and we go from FNAF 4. Well, we already did FNAF 4, so Sister Location and onwards, and we might even dabble a little bit about the movie and stuff since that might have passed.
Yeah, I
Who
do want to
knows?
say real quick. I looked up Matthew Lillard's role because he isn't called William Afton, which is the purple guy, which we'll talk about in part 2. But his name is Steve Raglan, which is bizarre, I'll say the least.
Who knows at this point? That's probably why like there was already a showing of the FNAF movie, and people were fighting in it. That's probably why there's people.
Oh
fighting
yeah, no,
because they're arguing about.
there's a
theories.
fight already over the FNAF movie in an early.
Wait,
The
really?
fight of '87.
Yeah,
Yes, no.
the fight.
It's,
The
it's a
fight
video
of
going
23
on.
already happened.
Yeah.
What the fuck? What the hell
Yeah.
I
happened?
like the way that's phrased. The fight of 23.
Uh,
Yeah. No idea. But it's very funny.
Jesus Christ.
That and another funny thing is like how FNAF, like, let's just say, inspires other things like Chuck E. Cheese, which, if you've ever been to Chuck E. Cheese, it should be very obvious why there's similarities to them because of the animatronics they have there, which honestly freaked me out as a child. But they just had a funny promotion called like Five Nights of Fun that even had like a purple guy listed in the banner. But then it's also like, guys, we're not copying FNAF, I swear.
It's so funny to see
Bro,
that
Dude.
because like the whole like similarity came from like though I think the main like source of inspiration came from like Scott like looking at the animatronics and Chuck E. Cheese be like, yo, these kind of look a little creepy. Oh wait,
So
and then now
Oh wait, no, there's actually a different inspiration for that.
well
yeah,
sort of going along those lines where it's like just like now it's like the complete 180 where it's like oh now Chuck E. Cheese is looking at you know these FNAF games
FNAF.
and stuff. So
I think it was like a half Chuck E. Cheese. I like to think it was like half Chuck E. Cheese and half the other inspiration, which is where Sky made a previous game called Chipper and Sons, and a lot of people looked at the designs and they were like, "These look like really uncanny, really creepy," and so that's where he got the idea to create a horror game about animatronic, like creepy, uncanny animatronics trying to kill you.
and it's worked.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
was
he
about
did get
to
that criticism. I forgot about that.
And it's worked.
Which, hey, that's a good way to take criticism. We can give him that.
We got a
Yeah.
we got a movie in 2 days as of this recording. So pretty successful, I'd say.
He got so successful.
I think
Gets
it's funny how
criticized
FNAF.
once.
He's got so successful
You first, Liam.
that he decided, I'm gonna make a movie with Blumhouse, the horror movie company, and it is going to probably make a lot of money from people like us because we're all stupid and buy into capitalism with FNAF. Only FNAF.
Yep.
So true.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, at least we don't buy into FIFA.
Yeah,
And Madden.
none of
Yeah,
us do.
It's
There are
okay.
worse
Julian,
things. There are worse things to buy into
right, Julian? None
capitalism.
of us buy FIFA, right, Julian?
Hey, that was a sad
Wait a
time in my
second.
life.
Okay,
Wait,
if you've
what?
stopped, I'll give you
I've
credit.
stopped, but it was a sad time in my life where like it was mainly during like middle school and high school. I like bought FIFA games.
I mean, middle school's fair enough. I won't knock you on
Wait,
that
hold
one.
on. What did you invest into? I did not hear it.
FIFA. I would buy those games.
I mean, I'll give you benefit of the doubt that you are a really big soccer fan, so it'll slide a little bit, only a little.
Hey, I just wanted to
Yeah,
play as Lionel
Your avatar
Messi.
does have a Messi jersey
Yeah.
on, so
Hey. But yeah, I think we talked a lot, and if people are interested in part 2, just bring me on again.
Might as well.
We
But,
gladly will.
Just a little concluding point. I just want to bring up the fact that like we've only covered a small portion of the FNAF franchise because this game series is not even 10 years old yet, and it already has like more games than some of the most successful franchises out there,
It
like
has
in
more
gaming.
books than fucking
And
half the like entire library of anything. There are like 20 something books. And
Yeah.
I've
It's
read
crazy.
too many of them. I have read too many of them and I am ashamed, but at the same time, some of them are really interesting.
dude, even some of the most popular mangas don't have that many like volumes. I think even like fucking Chainsaw Man doesn't have volume 20 yet.
yeah, Chainsaw Man only has 12 volumes, which I think is crazy.
No, it's more than 12. Well, at least if we're counting what's not released in America yet, at least
Yeah.
officially.
Yeah.
But yeah, any concluding thoughts before we wrap up?
I want to sex Five Nights at Freddy's.
Toy Bonnie's a
Hmm.
bitch.
Yeah, that too. Toy Chica, they didn't have to make her look like that.
Why would
I'm
you say that, Liam?
Not in the way you're thinking.
He's
I'm
just
saying
stating
that-
the
Hey,
obvious.
Liam, we don't want your I Show Speed moment yet.
Listen. My iShow's moment won't come because I know how to control myself. Except when I see Five Nights at Freddy's on. and
He knows how to
whenever
zip up
the
his
time traveling
pants.
ball pit comes in, that's when I go crazy.
So true. And to get that information,
Oh,
you
the
guys are going to
time
have
travel
to
involved.
request for a part 2. So make sure this video gets at least 10 likes, and we might consider a part 2.
Make
Just
sure
maybe.
you hit Make sure you hit that like button, like how William Afton, quote unquote, hit those missing kids.
And make sure you smash that subscribe button like that one Markiplier clip.
Bite down on the comment section like the bite of 87.
And
Bite of
comment your favorite
87?
FNAF
Oh
game
my
and what
God.
we should cover next.
So true, Liam.
But with
This
that being
ugly pizzeria simulator.
But with that being said, guys, this has been our FNAF video. Thank you very much for watching. Peace out.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Whore, whore, whore.